This video will help put the finishing touches on our My interface. We're going to add labels to identify the LEDs and the decimal display of the LED data, and also some other labels to dress up the borders of the right-hand side. Now all of this will introduce you to how we make our MakerPlot interfaces so attractive and how you can learn how to do the same. So let's get started. What we want to do is come up here to our object editor icon and click on it. We'll come down to the Controls 1 tab, which is already there. Now let's grab one of the label objects. We're going to left click on it. There's the X, and we're going to bring it over here just below the LEDs and release it. And we come up with something like LBL_68, which is the name of our label. And also notice that it looks like there's no background to the label, and that's because our our background color is 7. And the background color of 7 in MakerPlot is kind of special. It means that it's really a transparent color. So we're going to leave it that way for now, and we'll show you how to change the transparent color in a different part of this video. But let's leave it at that right now. So once again, what we want to do is we want to start off by labeling the LEDs above it so that we know what bit values they represent. And in effect, they represent bit values 7 through 0, going from left to right. So let's begin by changing the text of our label from what it is now to, let's say, 7. We'll just choose 7. And our text color is black, so let's change that as well. Let's come down here and change text color to something else. And that's pretty easy to do too. Come up here to the media control, and let's choose a color down here in our color palette. Something that kind of corresponds with our background. Let's choose yellow. So I'm going to click on the yellow, just drag it up here, and that turns out to be color 14, and now our value of 7 is a nice yellow. So let's leave it at that. Now what we want to do too is come back to Controls 1, and we want to duplicate this particular number 7 more times so that we can then adjust it and place them right above the LEDs. So I'm going to click on my duplicate button 7 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so we have all the numbers to place above our LEDs. Of course, we need to change them, but we'll show you how to do that right now. Let's start with the first 7 that we chose, and we want to push our Shift key, right-click on it, and we can now use our arrow keys to move that 7 above the proper LED. And I'm going to push the Shift key now to kind of fine-tune and adjust it to be right above the LED. So that's the first LED we want to move. Let's do the next one. We'll Shift, right-click on it, use the arrow keys to move it up. You push the Shift key and the arrow keys to tune it in. And we'll come over here to the object editor, and let's choose 6 and then hit the enter key. Okay, now it is 7 and 6. Now we're going to do the same with the rest of the numbers, and we'll do that in the background and come back when we're all done. Okay, here we have our LEDs all labeled 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. So now we can know what the values of our LEDs are in a binary sense. The next thing we want to do is add a label to the box right below it, which is the decimal indication of the binary value of our LEDs. So we want to do another label. Once again, come up here to our object editor. We will click on label and drag it over. And this one happens to say LBL_76. Let's change that to binary value and hit the enter key. So now it's binary value. This time we're going to also put a border around it. So let's click on the border and click the border checkbox. There's a border around it. Let's change the background color a bit. Let's go from a 7. Once again, we want to go to the media colors. And let's choose an appropriate background. Let's try a kind of a nice dark green. All right, binary value green. I don't particularly care for that. Let's try a lighter green. That's better. Okay, now what we want to do is move it so that we can position it correctly. So once again, I'm going to use my arrow keys, and I'm going to fine-tune it by pushing the Shift key and moving the arrow keys, and we'll leave it at about right where it's at. And of course, we can also change the text color if we want. It's black now. We can make it yellow like the LEDs. That doesn't look good. So let's make it black again. So this gives you an idea of how you can actually manipulate the various label controls to be able to, change whatever you want, size it whatever you want. Matter of fact, let's size it a little bit differently. Let's bring the width in. I just clicked on the width. I can enter a number like 9.0, and let's see what that does. All right, that brings the width down a bit. So it looks a little bit more finished. Now what we want to do as well is we want to add some borders to our right-hand side. Now look at the bottom here. You'll see these yellow vertical borders. Now those are actually labels. And I'm going to show you how to do the same kind of labels that can substitute as borders. So let's start with that. Come back up here to the object editor. Click on Controls 1 again. Let's bring another label over. And let's totally configure it to be a border. So to begin with, we want to drop the text. So we're just going to drop the text completely. Okay, we just cleared our text box out, hit the enter key. Now there's no text, and matter of fact, our label just went away too. So we need to change the background color. That's a 7. So let's change our background color to something equivalent to what we have below on the menu areas. Let's make it a yellow, which is 14. All right, it's a bit too thick, so let's change the width and the height, and let's use the arrow keys for that. I'm just going to shorten this up, and I'm going to push the Shift key down to kind of shorten this up. Then I'm going to widen it out a bit. We now have a border between our digital LEDs and the first analog meters. Let's continue with that same kind of border, and we'll use the duplicate key again. So we'll duplicate this particular border a couple of times. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Let's move the border again. Then we'll pick the next border in line and use the arrow keys to move it up and a bit over. And we'll pick the next one below that. I'm doing a right click with the Shift key pushed again, and I'll move this border down here between the meters. I'm going to fine tune it by pushing the Shift key down and moving the arrow keys. Shift right click on it and move it down right to about here. And I'm going to also position it. And finally, there's this other one hidden just below the meter. So let's right click on it, bring it down, and move it over. Okay, so those are our horizontal borders. Let's choose a vertical border, and let's do another Control 1. We'll do a label. Bring it over here. It's disappeared behind the meter, but that's all right. Let's move it up a bit so we can find it. Let's remove the text. Let's change the background color. Once again, we'll change the background color to 14, which we know is a yellow. And now we want to make this into a vertical border. So we're going to change the width and the height. So let's come up here to the width, click on it, and then let's use our arrow keys to reduce the size of this, and we're going to push our shift key down so that we can fine tune it, and then I'm going to move it slightly to the left. Then I'm going to bring it up to the top, move it over a bit so that it joins with the top horizontal border. Now let's actually expand it down. And I'm going to do that by first clicking on the height and using the arrow keys to move it down. So there we are. There's the way we can add borders to our interface. And of course, we can fine-tune this to whatever values we want. And then there's this other blank area down here just below the second meter that sort of begs for us to put a control in. But we're going to leave that up to you, because this is the kind of interface exercise that is very, very vital to MakerPlot. And now that you know how to do it, we invite you to try and use your imagination and create your own interfaces. So this completes the My interface. And what we're going to do is follow this video up with subsequent videos that will explain the event codes for all of the, or most of the controls on our menu items. And following that, we're going to do videos that will explain more about the object editor and more about the macro builder. Which brings me to the next subject, and that is we need to save our work. So let's come up here to the macro builder. Again, the wrench icon, click on it. Click on the wrench icon inside of it, and let's click on the save icon. We're going to save it under My interface. We're going to answer the standard questions. And then we're going to come down and we're going to test the interface to see if it's all there. So we'll hit the traffic icon. And yes, we want to test this out, and we've saved it.